Guess who won the women's hurdles at the NCAA Division II track meet? I'll give you a hint. He competed as a guy just last year. Joe Biden has jumped on the transgender bandwagon and in a recent speech blamed Donald Trump for all the violence that's happening against transgenders. Kirsten Gillibrand took on the NRA, and the responses from the NRA are just hilarious. We'll look at that, plus a whole lot more. I'm Bobby Everly. This is a 13-minute news hour.
And God bless the United States of America.
All right, folks, we'll get into the track meet, but first, our friends over at Bottle Breacher welcome you to the 13-minute news hour, and they have a special announcement just in time for Father's Day. Don't just tell the dads in your life that you appreciate them. Show them with an awesome gift from Bottle Breacher. Just go to bottlebreacher.com, use coupon code BOBBY13-A1 for 20% off your next purchase, and tell your dad that you really, really care. That's bottlebreacher.com, coupon code BOBBY13-A1. All right, folks. The left cracks me up, and here's one of the reasons why, is when they are forced to choose between their intersectional politics and policies and interest groups. We've talked about this before. They aren't built on principles. The Democrats and the left aren't built on principles. They're built on these little coalitions where they try to show each one that there's a bad guy out there, and they're here to save the day. But when they collide, it's just hilarious. You have Christians against gays and lesbians. They side with the gays and lesbians as far as like a Christian baker. You have a Muslim baker versus gays and lesbians. They'll side with the Muslims. You have women versus men. They side with women. You have women versus transgenders. They side with transgenders. And it's no more apparent than what you see in women's sports, how the men are starting to infiltrate the sports. We see it more and more. We covered the Connecticut high school guys that just blew away the competition in track and field. And now we have a story from the collegiate level. Take a look at this from the Washington Times. A hurdler who competed as a man last year won an NCAA championship in women's hurdles over the weekend. Cece Telfer of Franklin Pierce University easily won the 400-meter hurdles at the NCAA Division II Outdoor Track and Field Championships, winning the final race by more than a second. It was tough conditions out there with the wind and the heat over the last 3 days, but as she has over the last 6 months, Cece proved herself to be tough enough to handle it, says Zach Emerson, head coach at the school in Rindge, New Hampshire. Today was a microcosm of her entire season. She was not going to let anything slow her down. I've never met anybody as strong as her mentally in my entire life. According to Turtle Boy Sports, Telfer was born Craig and competed in the men's division as recently as January of last year. So how can this be allowed? It's because the left has thrown biology and common sense completely out the window. They don't look at that. They say there are no differences between men and women, so this could happen. And you see what the results are when this happens. Take a look at this picture, okay? This is Cece Telfer with some of her competition. And here's a clip of a recent race. All right, just take a look at this. All right, did you see that? So you show me an event in weightlifting, in swimming, in sprinting, in distance running, anything that requires strength or speed, show me where a woman has done better. The men are bigger, stronger, and faster, and they should not be competing with women. It's just absolutely outrageous. After the event, here was an interview where Cece sat down and talked with a reporter.
What was that experience like for you?
It was a very powerful moment. I really wanted to make my coach proud, and I knew that going into the finals, I was pretty strong in it, but it felt pretty powerful and empowering and just free.
Felt pretty strong going in? Yeah, I would say so, because this is a biological male. And talk about empowerment and feeling powerful. I mean, what about the women that you're pushing aside in order to advance this kind of agenda? Now, the NCAA, they say this is okay because they say that if a biological male is taking therapy, transition therapy or hormone blockers for a year, that's okay to compete. Well, this guy was a guy until he was 21 years old, well past puberty, and it doesn't matter what you take as far as injections. They have male bone mass, male muscular density, male lung capacity, heart volume, on and on and on. That doesn't change. And to say that this is just, this is a woman is absolute nonsense. So how did Cece compare to actual men running? Here's a report. In an analysis of Telfer's performance in 3 conference running races earlier this season at the Northeast 10 Conference Championship, Turtle Boy Sports reported that the 3 times in the 60-meter dash, the 60-meter hurdles, and the 200-meter dash did not measure up to male finalists, but won women's races. Most of the gaps were not small for races this short. Telfer would have trailed the last place male finalist by more than half a second in the 60-meter dash and almost 1.7 seconds in the 200, but won the women's 60-meter hurdles by half a second. All right, so no wonder this CC feels empowered, because rather than coming in last, he gets to compete against women and in some events comes in first. It's not fair to the women, and for a party, the Democrats, to say that they are the party of women, they've got a big problem here. And it just shows how nuts they are as far as their policies, their agenda. They are driven by the extremes. And when it comes face to face and head on with logic and common sense, they always give in to the extreme. And speaking of someone giving in to the extreme, let's take a look at Joe Biden, okay? This guy is a middle-of-the-road, squish Democrat, has been for decades. But now that he's running for president again, guess what? He's jumped on the transgender bandwagon, and he has all sorts of things to say. And his number one target, his number one focus is Donald Trump. Take a look at what he had to say at a speech this weekend in Ohio.
When a transgender American is literally under attack all across the nation, particularly, as was pointed out by Chad, transgender women of color denying access to life-saving health care, shelter, social services. Well, it's only going to further the cycle of violence and abuse.
He talks about being literally under attack, the cycle of abuse and violence. Again, painting this picture that there's something terribly wrong going on in this country, that everyone else outside of their agenda is morally corrupt or violent. When, as we talked about in previous programs, one of the groups that's most likely to be assaulted are conservatives. You go speak on a college campus and there's actual violence. But then he goes on, he takes it a step further. Take a look at this.
We've already had 5, just this year, 5 black transgender women killed violently in 2019. It's outrageous. It must end. And the fastest way to end it is end the Trump administration.
All right, talk about outrageous. For Biden to blame Trump for any kind of violence is absolutely outrageous, and it has no place in politics. But that doesn't stop the left. They do it all the time. They will not debate the issues, so they resort to personal attacks. And in this time, it's focused right on Trump. He doesn't talk about the actual people doing violence or the fact that they just blow this stuff out of proportion. And the other thing that the left doesn't ever mention is, if you want to talk about violence against a particular group, the group that is subject to where violence is rising the fastest and the most incidents is against the Jewish community. Yet the left and the media never talk about that. They want to talk about a group that represents, 0.3% of the population and act like it's some major epidemic and focus on Donald Trump. It's just absolutely outrageous, but it shows again that Biden will pander. He's doing it in other issues as well. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez slammed him last month for being wishy-washy on the environment. Guess what? He's launching his own version of a Green New Deal, clean energy, and all of this. He doesn't care about that stuff, but he's trying to get the votes. He's trying to make AOC feel all good. Maybe they'll exchange some nice, tweets or something like that. But it just shows what a squish that Joe Biden is, jumping on this bandwagon and milking it for all it's worth. But there's even a bigger squish. There's even a bigger flip-flopper, someone that will just jump on board any issue if it looks like a winning issue or the issue of the day, and that is Kirsten Gillibrand, another one of the Democrats running for president, but she is one of my favorite because she stands for absolutely nothing. She'll take a position one day, position A, the next day, position B, the next day, position C, all on the same issue. Whatever the trends are, whichever the way the wind is blowing, that's what she will do. And this week, it's been really hilarious because she participated in a Fox News town hall and went after the NRA. And the NRA's response was just classic. First of all, take a look at this question that was asked to her at the town hall.
What would you do differently to reduce the gun violence and the deaths in America, where all the previous presidents, they tried but failed? More specifically, would your plans have prevented the senseless massacre that happened in Virginia Beach last Friday?
All right, so in her response was just amazing because she didn't answer the question. She didn't say how her policies would have stopped this recent attack, but she did say this.
And I think the most outrageous thing that's happened to our democracy is how much fear and division and hate has been spread. I think the NRA is the worst organization in this country for doing exactly that. They care more about their profits than the American people. They care more about selling guns to someone on the terror watch list or someone with grave mental illness or someone who has a violent criminal background.
Wow, fear, division, and hate. That's what she says the NRA is all about. And what's so funny is the NRA didn't let it go. Just the other day, they put out a tweet in response to her comments, and here's what they had to say. Gillibrand called us the worst organization in the country, but when she represented New York 20, she wrote us, I appreciate the work that the NRA does to protect gun owners' rights, and I look forward to working with you for many years. Now that she's looking to crack 1%, she'll say anything. All right, that was funny, but it didn't end there because when Gillibrand was addressing that issue, she talked about what she would do. Here were some of her policies as what she would do as president. Take a listen.
First, I will make sure we have universal background checks. Second, I will make sure we ban the bump stocks, the large magazines, the assault rifles, the military-style weapons.
All right, so she wants to get rid of the assault weapons. She wants to get rid of the magazines, bump stocks, all things like that. So to follow up with that, the NRA posted a letter that she sent to Chris Cox, who was the executive director of the NRA at that time when she was Congresswoman. And here is what she wrote to the executive director of the NRA. On the question of outright banning certain firearms for cosmetic features, bullets of random size, or banning magazines holding an arbitrary number of cartridges, I am adamantly opposed and do not believe that laws should be based on random limits just for the sake of limiting gun ownership or usage. All right, so you see why she's so funny? Because it changes every single day. It's just hilarious, and as she says more stuff, we're going to keep on it. Folks, that's our show for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe. Please tell your friends. Hit that bell when you do. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-Minute News Hour. Okay, friends, just a little reminder before you go, and no, this does not count against my 13 minutes. Please hit the subscribe button below and tell your friends. And if you happen to miss our last show, you can check it out right here. And also for great conservative news and commentary, please check out GOPUSA.com. All right, folks, we'll see you on the next show. Have a great day.